Hey everybody, Jesse Dobeck here, and welcome to the Beyond Big Influence Show with Jesse Dobeck. And I am super, super blessed, humbled, and excited all at the same time for today's episode. It is a banger, I promise you that. It is amazing. We have somebody here that literally changed my life. I mean, you hear that when people say it, and I think it's kind of a cliche when a lot of people would say something like that because they're just trying to hype up this person. But literally, I never even knew what entrepreneurship was until I read this person's book. And I've been an entrepreneur full time for over 10 years now, guys, and it's changed my life. It's given me a whole new perspective on taking control and being responsible for what I'm doing out there in the world and the legacy and everything that I could see for myself. And if you heard my story, I want to do something massive with my life. I want to do something beyond big. And this person, when I read her book, and that book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and she was the engine behind the whole book. And a lot of people don't know that. They don't give her the credit that she deserves. But today, we're going to dive in, and you're going to hear her story, what she's up to, what her legacy, what she's doing out there in the world. I promise you, this is going to change your life. I got some questions here. We're going to dig in how she's created her impact, her legacy, and she sold over 30 million copies of one book. Okay, Rich Dad, Poor Dad sold over 30 million copies. I was one of those, and just one of 30 million. I know it's like a small fraction of it. But guess what? What she has done and the people she's worked with and just the stuff that she's doing out there, she knows, and I always talk about this. You need to know your numbers. And I never knew my numbers when I was coming up, even though, I read the book, but I didn't really know it the way she knows it. She knows her numbers, and trust me, I've been working with her for 2 years now. We've been good friends. I know a ton about the person I haven't even said her name yet, but it's Sharon Lechter, everybody. Sharon, are you there?
I'm here, Jesse. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm a little taller with that introduction.
All right. Well, that was actually nothing. We're going to dig into a lot more details than that. I got some questions for you here, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So you've done some amazing things in your career. There's so many things I could ask you right now, but let's just dive straight in. I mean, how did you come up with the brand Rich Dad, Poor Dad? How did that all come about? I mean, there's a lot of people that say, that's Robert Kiyosaki, and I know we say kind of he's the horn of the Rich Dad brand. You were the engine. So he was, if it was a car, you're kind of the mastermind behind it. So how did it all come about? Can you?
Well, I started my entrepreneurial career at 25. And so I started a women's magazine and sold that. Then I helped grow the Talking Children's book around the world. And when we did that, we aligned with companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, Marvel Comics. And so we paid a lot of royalties to those companies, but we needed to because that gave us validity in the eyes of parents. They trusted those brands. And so we were able to grow that company very quickly. And so I said, the next time I build a company, I want to build a brand that other people want to license so that I receive royalties instead of write them. And so when we, one day, well, it was back in 1992, my oldest son went off to college in September, came home in December in credit card debt. So I was pretty mad at him, but I was more mad at myself because we didn't even know he had a credit card. He got to college and there was a table, free pizza, free money, free t-shirt, free money. So he had a really good time this first semester in college.
How much debt did he have, Sharon, if you don't mind me asking?
What's that?
How much debt did he have, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, he spent through $2,500 of a savings account that he didn't know he had, and then $2,500 in debt on credit cards. So he literally spent $5,000 on top of the money that we were giving him in 3 months. Right? Wow. So yeah, he had a really good time.
Okay.
And he came home at Christmas and asked us to bail him out. And we said no, which is, we haven't always made the right parenting choices, but that one was. And So he is as passionate about financial literacy as I am. I'm very proud of the young man that he's turned out to be, because it took him 7 years to get out of debt and repair his credit, but he did it. And again, he shares my passion. But that really was December of 1992, and that's when I dedicated the rest of my career to financial literacy. So I started working with the school systems, and one day I get a call from my husband several years later, 96, and he said, Sharon, I met a guy today that has what you've been looking for. So I always tell when I'm in front of women, I go, ladies, what would you do if your husband called you and said, I met a man that has what you've been looking for? And so I said, okay, honey, tell me more. And so Robert Kiyosaki had gone in to see him in flip-flops and Bermuda shorts with this idea for a board game drawn on a piece of paper. Now, my husband, of course, was the corner office on one of the top floors of one of the buildings in downtown Phoenix. And so it was quite the mixed match of individuals. But
hold on, Sharon. I'm just going to stop you right there, just because, that was kind of the entry point where you met Kiyosaki, you met your husband, right? Like, so he saw The Office. So was Robert Kiyosaki, was he like a millionaire, super successful at this point, or was he just was he successful in his career at this point?
Well, it depends on how you just describe success. At that point in time...
Was he a millionaire?
No. At that point in time, he owned 2 small apartment complexes. And generated about $100,000 in passive income a year. And their living expenses were $30,000 to $40,000. So they were financially free. But with a very small dollar amount. And so that message was very important for me to get out. That's what I was teaching people, the importance of buying, building, creating assets. Yeah. What he had done. And so he had created this idea for a board game. And I met him at the very first beta test of the game. And I was the only one that got out of the rat race. And for all your listeners and watchers, if you're familiar with the game Cash Flow, that's what the game I'm talking about. And because of my experience, I volunteered to help him commercialize it. And in that process, he told me he wanted to charge $200 for it. And that's kind of pricey for a board game. And so I suggested that he write a brochure related to the philosophy behind the board game. And that's when he asked me to be his partner. And we wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right?
There it is, the famous book.
People don't know that this was actually a brochure. It was written as a brochure for the board game. And of course, the world took off. We thought our brand was Cash Flow, but the world said, oh no, your brand is Rich Dad. So we ended up, we thought that was going to be one and done, but then we wrote, we'll do a trilogy. So it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing, but people wanted more. So over our 10-year relationship, we wrote 15 books together, and we built basically I was CEO of the company, as well as co-founder with him. And we built it around the world in over 100 countries, over 50 languages. So
that's amazing. I mean, that book has influenced so many different people. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur and you ask them if they've read that book, I mean, pretty much all hands go up, or they say, heck yeah, I did. Like, it's changed my life. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. The concepts in that book, I mean, it just resonates so much. I mean, how did you guys come about, like, that concept? I mean, was it just kind of, you got lucky a little bit? Like, you just came up with it and launched it? You didn't know it was going to be a big hit? Did you have a feeling it was going to be a big hit when you launched it, or what happened? We
never expected that book would take off the way it did. No. We actually, our plan was about using it to sell the game. And of course the game did well too, but the book just exploded. And we really had a lot of help from people like you, Jesse. Somebody read it, found value, and then they told all their friends. Because remember, this was 1997.
Yeah, the internet wasn't big
Amazon, before Amazon, before the internet. So this was literally people going into a bookstore. And I knew enough about publishing. We couldn't get the book into the stores, but back then in the dinosaur days, they would send out physical CDs to all the bookstores with all the new titles. So I knew how to get the book in there. And so I would literally get up in the morning and have faxes ordering one copy for this bookstore, one copy for this store. So the first, we sold our first 1 million books out of my home. And it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, this book, I mean, this is all about beyond big influence. I mean, this is beyond big influence right here. I mean, this story. So, I mean, what what was next for you after this? I mean, like, you know, you had this, you launched this book. Like, what was your thinking, like how you were going to launch this and build a massive brand and company that one day you could eventually sell or just do whatever you want with? I mean, that would be worth that much. I mean, what were kind of the next steps? Because I know you're the CPA, you're looking at the numbers, you're trying to figure out like how we're going to do that. So how did you form that and form just like the success and the viral nature of that book back then, like into an actual company? What were the next steps?
There's lots of things that go into it. In order to build a house, you have to go down before you go up. So I understood the elements of creating a strong company that even though it's successful, not all companies are sustainable and scalable because they don't have the foundation around them. And so that's, I was able to build it so that we could scale. And then also just in the branding and understanding the power of intellectual property. When we first wrote this book, we went to publish and I said, oh, it can't be purple. It needs to be financial books are either red, black, or green.
Oh, wow.
And we go, well, that's why I want it purple. Because I want it to stand out, right?
Yeah. Hey, and right there. That's it right there. Love that.
We wanted to stand out. And so now today you go into bookstores and what do you see a lot of in the business section? A lot of purple because people copied what we did.
Yeah.
I want to go the road less traveled. My personal mantra is why not? Why not do something different? Why not go the path less traveled? Why not stand up and stand out, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's probably one of the biggest things because the whole purple of the book, that was the first thing I remember when Mitchell, was my business partner for a long time. He's one of my best friends growing up. I walk into his tanning salon. He's showing me all this stuff. I'm looking at it, like, to be honest, I'm looking at his like tanning salon, like, okay, like this is cool. But like the one Massage Envy or, the tanning salon down the street, it's got this massive brand and like, they clearly have millions and millions of dollars poured into it. And I remember like listening to him and like going, checking out all this stuff. But at the very end, he pulls out this book and it was purple and gold, and I just remember it and it just like mesmerized me, right? Yeah, like exactly that. I was just like, and it said Rich Dad on it. And I was like, and the one thing he said, he's like, you can look at what I'm doing right now, but this book right here is how I know one day I'm going to be rich, and that like when he said that, I was like, at first I'm like, whatever, bro. And but he gave me the book, and he's like, you got to read this book. Like, and I read it like within 24 hours of getting it. Cause as soon as I like opened it up and like just started going through it, like literally, and I don't read books and Sharon knows that, like, I'm not like a book reader, but that one I did read and it like the branding got me. I mean, that's like, it's so huge and, influence and you're trading influence. I mean, you got to think about that. So
even the title, we created the title to have that emotional connection. Because when you see the title, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you immediately say, oh, my dad was the poor dad or my dad was the rich dad. So you have an instant personal relationship, even just with the title. And that's, so many writers are dictatorial. And so they tell you what to do. What I do in all of my writing is I share stories. I share things that other people have done. So a reader can relate to the story and find something. Oh, if they can do that, so can I.
Yeah. So moving past, you built this massive brand and you worked with Robert for a while and then you sold your shares of that and moved on. I mean, so what's your vision now for your influence, for your brand, for what you're doing for yourself and moving past that? Like what's your big vision?
Well, let me take a step back, Jesse, because I think I have to share the process because people watching and listening, sometimes things stop you in your tracks. And so when I was, we were 10 years into the relationship and he wanted to go into franchising, which was a great model for us, not a good model for the franchisees. And we'd already, success just brings out more of who you really are. And we were getting we weren't really thrilled with each other anymore. And so I made the decision to leave and it was amicable for a little while, but we ended up in litigation. And so it was really sad. But I don't regret ever building Rich Dad. But when I left, I thought Rich Dad was my legacy, I'd written 15 books. That's like giving birth 15 times.
Yeah.
And I did not know what was in the future for me. But sometimes you have to stand in your truth and stand in the power that you have. And I made that decision at the height of our success, millions of dollars every month. But I made the decision that it was not a healthy environment for me to stay in. And so I chose to leave. And sometimes you have to close a door for other doors to open. Because a few short months after that is when I got the call from President Bush asking me to be on the first President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy. And I served Bush and President Obama. And so
Sharon, how did they find you? Was it because of the brand and Rich Dad, and it was just so massive that they're like, who's behind this? And how did that happen?
No, it wasn't because of Rich Dad. It was just because of other people in their circle that knew that I was dedicated to financial literacy. And of course, my notoriety with Rich Dad was part of that. But I was also on a national commission for the AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. That probably was even a higher elevation for me. So, but that's what I teach. And your play big, and my play big, and your play bigger. It's all about establishing your authority. Right? Becoming an influencer. And so by having that opportunity, I wouldn't have gotten that call had I still been at Rich Dad. All right. So I did not know it, but I had to close that door for other doors. And then a few months later, we know what happened to the economy in 2008, 2009. I got the call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation asking me to help reinvigorate the teachings of Napoleon Hill. I certainly wouldn't have gotten that call had I still been at Rich Dad. So I always challenge you and everybody watching and listening. Sometimes you have to close a door in your life so that new doors will open. But that allowed me to, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was not my legacy. It was part of my legacy. And I have had so many more opportunities since then. And so you have to look at what my personal mission is to support people finding financial independence. And that is whether it's children or entrepreneurs or women. I want people to have the tools because we're not teaching it in school. And so I was able to establish my authority. I was asked to be the very first CGMA, which is the Chartered Global Management Accountant. It was, and so these are honors that I've had as a result of the work that I continue to do in this field. But the work is never done. I'm as passionate about it today as I was back in '92.
Do you have any big plans to get another book going similar to Rich Dad, Poor Dad and really get that launching now? I mean, what is your vision for today? I'm pretty
excited.
Yeah.
Here, let me pull it out. I've got a new book that's coming out in January called Exit Rich.
Okay, that one's pretty cool, yeah.
I wrote this with Michelle Seiler-Tucker. This is a pre-release copy, and it was supposed to come out in April and then July, but because of the world, we're releasing it in January. And I'm very excited because Inc. magazine picked it up, and so it's under their imprint. So I'm very excited about this because this adds another element to my portfolio of work that is very important. And it really, because it talks about building that strong foundation, whether you want to sell your company or not. If you want your company to create generational wealth, you need to build the foundation and make sure you understand the strengths and things that you built along the way. So if you want to sell it, you're positioned appropriately. Yeah.
So Sharon, I'm guilty of this. Yesterday, I went on you're in my news feed all the time because I'm supporting you with social media stuff, obviously, with the work we're doing together. But there was a poll. It said, do you want my next thing to be about money, success, and relationships, or something about launching a book, publishing or self-publishing or being an author, right? So I'm looking at it and I'm like, my first instinct on my answer was number one. But then I was like, I know a lot about that already. I'm working with Sharon. She's got already a lot of that stuff, And I was like, the one thing that I think in the influencer space or in the online space that I think would probably really hit would be how she, because you have the most credibility, in my opinion, as an influencer and in this work we're doing, in how to build a book and launch it like that, you know, because there's a lot of people that have, I mean, there's people in our industry that have sold millions of dollars worth of training about how to do a book, but they're just getting people on the Amazon bestseller list, which anybody can do. Like I can do that in 10 seconds, right?
Yeah, big
but
difference.
You've done it, not New York Times bestseller, like you just pay to be up there $100,000 and you're up there for 20 minutes.
Way. Yeah, we did it the organic way. And now we're doing a New York Times campaign for Exit Rich. And I'm learning a lot because we always did it organically. It made it up there all by itself. So I think the story that can be created, I mean, I'm just brainstorming right here. I mean, we're like, you know, I don't want to, I'm not grilling you or nothing. Like we can talk about this later, but I feel like that right there would be, a lot of people would want that. You have a great story behind how you did it and like launching a book. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to do it. The only thing for me, it's like the world's kind of changing digital. Like the way you did it, that was like in an older world where it was like. And that's the whole concept is publishing in 2020 is very different than it was even in 2015.
Yeah.
Let alone 1997, you know, certainly. But I've seen the publishing world really go. It's a dinosaur world, the big companies. And there are reasons to go with big companies, but you need to really determine what those reasons are. And so Mike and I, my husband, we really turned the publishing company around because when we went to the big companies, Warner Books, we were the first ones to say, we want a joint venture. We don't want a typical publishing arrangement. And there was a time limit, and we did not give up rights to our copyright. Before that, pretty much when you got published, the publisher owned your book in perpetuity. And so those are things. And so now you see this in a lot of different companies are offering these joint venture relationships. And Mike and I really created that because, again, it's that philosophy of why not. They go, we don't do it that way. And my answer is, why not? Yeah. Crazy. Just because you say you haven't done it in the past doesn't mean there's not a reason to adjust. And of course, today, the publishing world is very different and people don't understand the choices along the way. And there are a lot of people out there, charging a lot of money to teach people how to do it, and they've never done it themselves. So it's really important for people to know who they're listening to and who's working. Because it's not just writing a book, it's building the business around the book. Yeah. Okay, so my success is, I am a very good writer. But you can have the greatest written book, but if you don't have the business around it and the ability to let people know it's there, you're not going to sell it. And then what are you going to do? Just a one and done? Or is there a back end to the book? You know, is the book an entry point to a funnel? You know, the whole concept of what's after the book, what's before the book, getting them to it, understanding, you know, the promotion and the media side, and then what comes after the book. Because when you sell a book through Amazon or through a bookstore, you don't get their name and email. Yeah. So you have to have calls to action for them to come
back to you. Yeah, and I think, you know, that's what we've been working on underground together, Sharon, is building a system where you can go in the digital world and take what you know and what you've been doing and what you had success with, but digitalize it in the new world and then get that out there and be able to get the numbers that you were getting before. I mean, I really believe that's possible. I just really like what you're expanding and what you're doing and all the things that you're active. I mean, you just, so.
Thank God we started working together when we did, Jesse, because it was before this craziness. And, you know, my success of my 35 plus year career was really organic and people coming to me and speaking. And so I really hadn't built an online campaign or an online presence other than a website. And so you actually, I think you should tell the story because we were both at a speaking engagement and you texted
me. I was too shy to talk to you when I was in the elevator with you. I don't know if you even knew that, but then I sent you a message on Facebook and said who I was and that I was at the event. And then we connected. We had a meeting and we talked about some things. And then I remember you said, if we're going to work together, I got to read this book, which, you know, I don't really read. I haven't read it. I checked out the Cliff Notes on YouTube. So I don't know if that counts. Like I watched the 2-hour explanation of the book. So I know I'm pretty familiar with the concepts, but yeah, we had a great conversation, started working together, and we've started creating some results together. I'm really excited about where those results are leading to, because I feel like we got the foundation, we got the team, we got everybody in place now. You know, we built your website, we did some things, and, you know, we're excited about our software as well that we got coming out to automate everything. And I just see us being able to create a massive asset together and a machine that allows you to do. My big vision is to outsell in copies what you've already done with the new books that you have, because you have amazing books and branding, and you know all the business side of it, you know that side of it. And I really know it's possible. And this is beyond big influence. So, you know, we're getting in touch with a lot of different people, joint venture partners, and like the software that we have, we can build the process, and then we can get the joint venture relationships that have a lot of people on their list. So we can do that massive book launch. So, you know, I've helped people sell a lot of copies through Facebook advertising and different ads and, you know, different stuff like that. So I see that in your future as a massive book launch that we do together. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So what's your vision for your brand? If say you had $1 billion right now to spend on your brand, what would that look like? What would you do?
Well, I think my brand is pretty defined with my career. I've been pretty consistent in how I present myself. And so quite frankly, if I had $1 billion, I'd probably give a lot of it away. But you know, I think just utilizing expertise like yours to get the right people on my team to spread the news and reach more people, because I know the information that I have is it helps people. I have a client that just paid down $70,000 worth of bad debt in 3 months after taking our money mastery course. I've got other clients that have now got global brands, and their seminars are in 10 countries as a result of our Play Big course. So I know what I do, what I share is the stuff in these online programs is what I do with my one-on-one mentoring clients, but they're a lot more expensive, right? So you can pay me $35,000 to $100,000 a year, and I'm going to work with you one-on-one, or you can take these courses and have access to me much, much cheaper. So it's important to figure out what it is your needs are and plug in. But I know that the information that I'm providing will help you get there. And it's not just, there's no fluff in what I do. It's all roll up the sleeves and get the work done.
Absolutely. And you've rolled up your sleeves. You're always getting the work done. I see you active every single day. You're doing things. You're in the trenches. Have you ever had any times in your career where you weren't active? I mean, have you always been like this? I mean, ever since I've known you, you've been like every day just grinding, like speaking on stages, traveling around. Have you ever hit like a dead spot where you just didn't feel like getting up? And how was that?
Well, I think we all have had things that stopped us in our tracks. And 7.5 years ago, Jesse, I think you know, I lost my youngest son. Yeah, so I went from playing big, like I talked about Time Life, Disney, Warner Brothers, to literally playing very small and what I call living in neutral, you know, not really kind of in a state of numb. And I was still working, but not with the same zest and passion. And so about 3.5 years ago, I was thinking about retiring because I just wasn't getting the energy from it, and got a little pushback from family and friends, and said, you know, you're still here for a reason. And I think I even heard my son whispering in my ear, "Get over it, Mom. There's more for you to do." And so that's when I launched the Play Big movement, because once I took the blinders off and said, okay, I'm going to play big again, unbelievable opportunities came to me. You know, that was, I think, like the next week, I got the call to be on the Think and Grow Rich Legacy movie. And then I got this earlier this year, I was on the World's Greatest Motivators, one of 13 people they highlighted. So these are huge honors for me. But unless you open yourself to the possibilities, you're not going to recognize them or receive them.
Yeah.
And so that's when I launched the Play Big movement, a private Facebook group, so that I could share the things that I'm doing and encourage others to do it along with me. I don't promote it, but we've got over 2,000 people in this group that are all committed to be number one in their field, an influencer, okay? Mm-hmm. Number one in their field, living their legacy and creating maximum impact. And that's what Play Big is all about. And so by sharing that and getting a community of people that want to give back and want to play a bigger game, we actually have a much larger impact as a group.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's one thing I always hear people say, your network is equal to your net worth, and your influence within your network and just how you can build your network, I think is a big thing. Everybody that I've interviewed, it's either they talk about their influence, talking to big CEOs and billionaires and like networking, or like, millionaires and networking with them, and like their influence amongst like one-on-one relationships, or they're talking about their influence like one to many, like they're going viral on social media, like how to do it. And like, so, I mean, what you're doing and your influence, would you say is kind of a combination of the two? Like, are you kind of, and what percentage are you focused right now on like the networking side versus the content creation and going viral side? Like, how does that work for you?
Well, I think, in my personal success equation, I talk about your passion, your talent, and then the power of association. So power of association is so important in the world. And so you're not going to reach the level of success you want unless you do both of those things. Yeah. Right. Totally. And you're helping me on the mass communication, the one to many. All right. Yeah. I'm very fortunate and very grateful for the connections that I have in the world, that are with dear friends. Some of them are billionaires. Some of them are waitresses. So I have a cross-cultural connection to people, but I have a lifetime of connections of people that I adore and people who support me. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have that. And so it's very important to have both those one-on-one connections, that if I need help, I call somebody and they go, got it, I show up. All right. People call me, I'm there to show up for them. And then the one to many is something that my whole career has been through books, millions of people, and then one to many through speaking engagements. And then now with your help, getting my message out one to many online through the virtual space. And so it's a combination of those two. But also by doing that virtually, it's allowed me to take on more one-on-one clients, which is not what that's a time commitment on mine. But for me, it's a joy. I love the one-on-one work that I do with people as well. But I have to limit how many clients I can take because of the fact that I do have, I'm at the point in my life where I like to have a little bit of free time. So I balance the mass audience with the one-on-ones and then having a little time with the grandchildren. Right?
What's one thing that, that somebody just starting out with their brand and their influence, like say somebody, they're like, okay, I'm thinking about doing a book. I'm thinking about being an entrepreneur. Like, I hate my job. Like, but what's one thing you can say to somebody when they're just getting started to focus on or to think about, as just going back? Because I know so many times, like I'm talking to people about marketing or whatever, and I'm talking to them because I've been doing this for 10 years. But I got to remember how it was for me when it was my first day, So there's so many people out there right now. They're like, okay, well, what you guys are saying, like, well, what do I do now? What's the action that I take today? Because you guys are talking about stuff, like 10, 20, 30 years down the road that I can't, like, they're hesitating. So what would you say to somebody just getting started right now?
Well, I did tell them to go to personalsuccessequation.com and download my personal success equation, because it really takes you through the process of understanding your passion and your talent, that power of association, who you already have in your network that can help you and who you need, and then taking action, then having faith and confidence in yourself. And usually, Jesse, it's that power of association and that faith in yourself that needs the most work. So somebody that's just getting started, don't try and do it all on your own. Bring people together to help you, that support you, but also understand, remind yourself, what is it you want to do? What problem do you want to solve? What need do you want to serve? Those are the two elements of a successful business. And when you remind yourself of that, it takes it outside of yourself and gives you that energy to keep going during the down times. Yeah. But also find the gap, right? Don't write a book on leadership. Maybe it's leadership through change. That one I would read, right? Yeah. Not just another leadership book. What is it that you want to make different? That's why we launched our brand, Assets Are Sexy. One of the things that makes me unique is that I don't talk about make more money. I talk about buy, build, and create income producing assets. Let the assets make the money for you. Yeah. And so that's my unique gap that I'm filling for people to understand the power of income producing assets.
Amazing. So say it again, the URL?
Personalsuccessequation.com.
Personalsuccessequation.com. Everybody go there now. Sharon knows what she's doing, and she's going to help you out there. Just go there. That's a huge gift for you guys. So make sure you check that out. So Sharon, I got a question for you. If you were a superhero, if there's one thing that you're the best in the world at, okay, I know we talked about a lot of stuff today. If that was you and you were Superwoman or Sharon Lechter Superwoman, what could you say that you're the best in the world at that makes you stand out, your superpower?
I can see opportunities that other people can't. I can help an entrepreneur see ways to increase avenues of revenue. Yeah. And I can also identify associations that can help take them to the next level. So I love doing laser focus with people on their businesses and have they considered, all right, I bring it out of you, but there's, my superpower is identifying opportunities that people can't see for themselves. Okay. So I know there's a lot of, big things in the world happening right now and scary stuff. And, a lot of businesses, I think the word is pivot. You got to pivot, or you got to make an adjustment. So where do you think the world is headed right now? And what is the most important thing you think people need to focus on moving forward here? Well, some of our most successful companies today were started during the Great Depression. So this is a time to ask yourself, am I taking this time, investing this time to position myself for the future? Or am I just spending time coasting? Yeah. And so that's the first question. And if you can position yourself, again, go back to solve a problem or serve a need. We have a whole lot of them. Number one, I wouldn't be investing in commercial real estate because we don't know what it's going to look like in the next few years. Yeah. But this is a time for people to have a lot of needs, restaurants that have been innovative, that have switched to delivery and carry out, those things. And I actually don't like the word pivot. I think they are adapting. All right. Okay. So to see what's happening, reposition, right? Redefine, and then refire, right? Refire into what the world is right now, and define, not get mad at what is happening, but say, okay, how can I still succeed? What can I do to succeed in the environment that I'm in right now? And then reposition yourself so that you're on the front of the wave, not capsized by it. Because right now we've been in this for far too long, and people are getting frustrated and sad. Be the beacon. I always say, don't wait for the light at the end of the tunnel, because that means you're relying on somebody else. Become the beacon of light, right? Be positive. We can't hold positive and negative at the same time. And so you can't change what's happening in the world. You can't change what's happening in your state. You can change what's happening in your wallet and in your house. And so create an environment of faith, of positivity. And all of a sudden you're going to see other people flock to you because they need that from you.
Absolutely. And I think adapt, I think that is the powerful word, because, you got to just, you can't dwell on it, you can't think about the negative side. I mean, when the world is in chaos, or when there's chaos in general, there's problems that can be solved. And when there's problems that can be solved, you can monetize, you can create a solution for those problems, and in turn monetize yourself, or create a business out of that. So
pivot means change direction. All right. Adapt means change delivery. Your mission hasn't changed. What you want to do hasn't changed. The way you do it might need to be changed. You might need to adapt to the current circumstances.
See, guys, now you know why we have Sharon on. She's just, I mean, she knows, she's got wisdom beyond big wisdom. That's all I could say. What's the one deal with another influencer, another, is that something you could talk about? I don't know if it was like when you sold your shares of Rich Dad Poor Dad, or I'm just curious of the process that you went through in talking to or recognizing an opportunity where you could, monetize yourself and monetize your influence at the highest level. Is that something that you can talk about, or you have something?
Well, I certainly think, and I don't, from a standpoint of the power of association, being on the President's Advisor Council for Financial Literacy opened tons of doors for me, and established my global authority on the topic of financial literacy, financial education. And so that has helped me. And there have been so many, Jesse, I don't want to sound like, I can't, it's like asking me what child is my favorite. Last fall I was called and I was asked to be on the President's Summit in Copenhagen. And then this last month I was on the cover of European Business Magazine. And so from a standpoint of being an influencer, being on the television show, World's Greatest Motivators, if you go to worldsgreatestmotivators.com/episode 8, you can see my episode. That was a huge opportunity. And that came to me through several close friends, David Meltzer. And so I was on that show with David and with Les Brown and Jack Canfield and Brian Tracy, Lisa Nichols, Michael Beckwith, all dear friends of mine. So I think when you get to this station in your life, you want to value those relationships and you want to nurture them. I don't ask much from any of them because we all get pummeled with requests, but we're all there to show up for each other if we need it. And so I think it's important for people to always think about focusing on expanding that power of association that you have. And you never know where it's going to come from. Brad Sugars, who's the CEO of Action Coach International. Yeah. I met him years and years ago. Through Rich Dad. And now we're very good friends. And he's had me come speak to his group internationally several times. And so you never know when a relationship you've created comes back. I have a new mentoring client who is very successful in real estate. She owns her own private island, and yet she called me out of the blue, emailed me out of the blue to tell me that when she was 18, she read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so it was just, we get those kinds of contacts and realize that you had something to do with someone really charting that path of success. Oh my gosh, there's nothing better. So when you talk about level of influence, even though that is such, it feeds me to know that I did something that really positively impacts someone else.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I know you have a lot of friends out there, and you mentioned, not like requesting too much from them. I mean, what's too much? I mean, what if you're doing a launch and you're like, you want to ask if they want to support you or they can support you? I mean, what would you say to that?
Well, absolutely. When I'm doing something new and I want to, they have a new book out. I give them a testimonial. They give me a testimonial, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And we share that and we support each other that way. But it's not something that I'm going to do, I'm not going to tag them on everything that I post. right? There's
I see some people doing that.
There's a lot of people out there that I see and I go, I did not give you permission to tag me.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really, it's important to understand the proper etiquette on how to work with somebody that has a large presence. So
yeah, when I started out, I was doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Like, oh, if I just tag somebody, it'll just give me traffic. It's like, but if you do that, you're going to burn out what other people think about you. Like there's always consequences for every action. So, and I feel like, what we're doing together, Sharon, once your email list grows, I mean, people are going to be reaching out to you for a promotion, but you'll be able to pick and choose, because then it's like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. But then you're going to have to promote me,
Oh, we get a lot of requests and I can't do them all,
Yeah.
and I appreciate, I'm always honored that I'm being asked, but it's not an immediate yes. Because unlike a lot of people, if I give a testimonial on a book, I actually read it.
Yeah.
A lot of people just say, oh yeah, whatever, put it on there. But I'm kind of a stickler. If I'm going to give a testimony on a book, I have to have the whole book. I have to read it. And it served me well, because there have been a couple of times when I've been reading the book and all of a sudden there's something in there that, they've given somebody credit for something that I said. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe we need to have that adjusted if you want me to give you a testimonial. So,
yeah. Okay. So what's the hardest thing about being an influencer that you think is out there for people? I mean, is it like just being in the spotlight? Like, is it going on stage? Is it having to show up every day 110%? Is it energy draining? Are you worried if you say something wrong? Like, I mean, what do you think's the hardest thing, about?
Well, it shouldn't be hard if you're a honest person, because you'll be the same on stage as you're off stage.
Yeah.
Obviously, I pay attention to what I post online, because I want to make sure that I'm supporting the people who support me. But I think it's important just to be real, be authentic, be transparent as much as possible. And then also, I have a lot of people, and I've been trying to deal with this for the last year, Jesse, because you said you were afraid to talk to me. Several people have said, Erik Swanson said, oh, I was so afraid of you. He's a dear friend of mine. But I
don't think I was just afraid of you, though. I'm just like a shy person in general. I'd rather just text them or something and then see if they're interested.
But I get that all the time, and I go, why? I mean, my clients all call me mama, and it's like, why are people intimidated by me? So it's something I'm working on, because I don't understand it. But, it's something that you want to be approachable, but at the same time, I have people like Angela who keeps some boundaries, so that because I tend to give myself away. I have a hard time saying no. And so it's something that you need to have systems, and that's part of building that foundation, creating the systems on how you process requests, because as you become an influencer, you get a lot more requests. But, truly successful people are actually more accessible than you think they are, because they have the system. So if what you're asking is legitimate, it's going to get to them. Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, like that's what I was talking, because everybody's like 1 or 2 or 3 degrees of separation from anybody in the world. And if you have something really good, you're going to, if you're putting the feelers out there, like you can get your thing to the right person. And, I've seen a couple people where they're pretty successful, and then they get that one heavy hitter JV partner, and then it's game over. I mean, that's kind of what happened with me in my career when, I had created a strategy that Brendan Burchard latched onto, and then I was on his stage and other stages, and it just started going and going and going. It eventually fizzled out because Facebook kind of changed their whole thing, and my whole business model changed. But, I feel like you're one big thing away from you figuring out one thing that really revolutionizes something or changes the world in some way. And the great people will find you. They'll just kind of show up. And I think that's happened with you multiple times. It's happened with me before. And, I just think that people out there, if you can create a system that works and just network enough, you're going to get to where you want to go. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I tell people, when everybody's an expert because nobody's been in your shoes, had your successes, your learning opportunities. But when you become an authority or an influencer, when people start calling you instead of you calling them, right? When your phone starts ringing, all of a sudden, you've kind of arrived. You're the influencer. And so to be able to maintain that, you've got to maintain your expertise. You need to maintain your brand. All right. So if your brand is, being cocky, all right, great. But if I'm on this show with you and I'm cocky and jumping up and down, that's not consistent with who I am.
Yeah.
You were just talking about Carlos with his hat, right? So if I showed up in a sombrero, it would not be consistent with my brand, but I love him because that's who he is. This is who I am. And so it's important to be consistent, all right? And think of Brian Tracy, all right? Gentleman through and through and through. And so all of those things, it's important for people to really have that consistency of how you face the world and making sure that how you face the world is authentic to who you really are.
Yeah, and that brings up a couple of things because you mentioned being cocky, you mentioned like some negative side and like that, people are kind of attached to that. So I was watching this video and I don't know if you know Prince E. It's Prince EA. He's a viral guy. He's had several 100 million watches on his Facebook videos, and he's a big video maker. So he was talking about influencers, and he was talking about, the word influenza is like the flu. There's a lot of negative words that have the root in there, like under the influence. But also like your mom, when you're in school, like saying, are you hanging out with him? Because if he's a bad influence, we can't have him. But if he's a good influence, like that word is like just really powerful. And I think it's just so important in our society. But there are people out there where they get a lot of views and they get a lot of traction. If they're probably like venturing off into something like, that they wouldn't normally do unless they have a lot of attention and they have a lot of, they're getting like a lot of views. But what he said is, are people leaving your page when they go to your page and leave your page with the information that you're giving them or the inspiration that you're giving them? Are they leaving better or worse than when they got there? And I think some people sell out to that. What are your thoughts about that? Do people like kind of sell out to that? Like they're trying to keep up with the Kardashians or something, or like, what do you think?
I compare that to a flash in the pan versus sustainability.
Yeah.
And so there are those people, the firm, if it bleeds, it leads. So yes, there are a lot of people that create hype to get attention and to build audience. And the question is, how are you going to follow up with that? Are you going to continue supporting? And really, at the end of the day, are you adding value or just craving attention?
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're craving attention, you may get it, but are you adding value?
Yeah.
Okay. And so to use my example, Carlos, I love him dearly. He's fantastic. And he's always adding value and pouring value into people's lives.
Yeah.
But he's doing it from a high energy level, fun, entertainment. You just can't help but laugh along with him and love him to death. But so you're being entertained, he's getting it, but he's also pouring value into you. So you want to continue seeing what he's doing and what's next. Is he going to ride a little girl's bicycle down the street? Is he going to, somewhere? It's hysterical. But he doesn't stop there. He makes sure that there's value added each and every time. And so he's the whole package. Yeah,
he's definitely doing things. I mean, you're doing things amazing. Like I just got to say, I got a lot of great friends. I mean, like I just like people that pour positivity out there. I pay attention to that, how people make me feel. I think you do too. A lot of the good people, the great people out there in the world are focused on being great all the time, and you've definitely done that. So how do people listening in here, how do they get in touch with you? How do they learn more about you? I know we told them to go to the personalsuccessequation.com already, but how do they get in touch with you? Or
well, my website is sharonlechter.com. And my Instagram is Sharon Lechter. My LinkedIn is Sharon Lechter. My Facebook professional page is author Sharon Lechter. And if you want to reach out to me directly, info@sharonlechter.com. And then, of course, I mentioned the private Facebook group, the Play Big Movement with Sharon Lechter. So,
yeah, and be on the lookout. Sharon's got a lot of, free webinars and, free videos that are going to change your life. And she's also got things where, you should invest in Sharon. You should definitely go and sign up if you get a chance. And get a great deal working with Sharon and start learning from her on some of her paid content. And in that, you definitely got to start investing in yourself, because Sharon's been there. She has over 30 years. How many years experience? 30?
You want me to admit that? 44 years I've been in business.
44 years of experience. Yes, I want you to admit that, because not very many people can say that. A lot of people, I have 10 years experience. 44, that's a whole different level. I'm going to be a completely different person with a completely new set of understanding about what I'm doing in that amount of time. So yes, it's very important. I know, it's put you on the spot there, but guys, if you're out there, you get a chance to work with Sharon. If you see any of her ads on social media, if you see anything where you can go and watch a webinar and get a chance to invest and just start learning from her. She's got amazing content through and through. It just gets better and better. The more you invest with her, you're going to learn things and get the knowledge of 44 years to be able to put into your business from day one. I mean, that's so important. Okay, I don't have a lot of people on the show where I can just say that with 110% confidence. So go find Sharon, make sure you get in, invest in her, because she's invested in you times a million. Okay, she's already invested her time, energy, and money in you to be here right now. She doesn't, with what the work she did with Rich Dad Poor Dad, she could have stopped working and been fine and had plenty of money for the rest of her life. The fact she's still here grinding every single day means that she wants to serve you. She just genuinely wants to help you on such a positive thing. She just wants to leave a legacy, and she's thinking beyond herself. She even said, if I had $1 billion, I'd give most of it away, because then she really means that. I mean, she's so generous with everything that she's ever done with me or anything that I've come in contact. And you guys should definitely just jump in and just say please and thank you and just sign up with whatever she's doing, because it's supporting her and it's supporting you, because you're going to get the knowledge from her in your business. So that's what I wanted to say. Make sure that you follow Sharon and you get in with all of her stuff. We love you very much, Sharon. Thank you for joining us today. What's one last thing that you want to say to somebody to just put a stamp on this, what we've done here today?
Well, it's great to be a lifelong learner, but you need to be a lifelong learner and a lifelong action taker. And you are the CEO of your own life. So if things are going to change, it's because you made the decision to change. And so everybody, we are where we are today because of the choices we made before today. So if you want something different in your life, you need to start making different choices. And the first choice is to figure out who you're learning from, who you're listening to, and then take action.
Amazing, Sharon. I couldn't have scripted that myself at all. So we're just so amazing that we had you here today in the Beyond Big Influence show with Jessie Dobeck. Special guest Sharon Lechter today. Amazing, amazing interview. Make sure you go back and rewatch it 1,000,000 times. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Until then, take care.